Hi everybody. I've recently watched Batman, and I've become vengeance. I'm not sure how I'm going to review this movie now that I...
I do riddle. I do riddles. I do riddles.
I didn't think we'd meet this way. I was kind of expecting a thing, and you'd send me a video, and I'd look at it first, and But now that you're here, I mean...
riddles. What's 2 plus 2?
Is something going to blow up if I answer it wrong?
Wrong!
Hi everybody. I am Vengeance, and I'm here with the Riddler.
Hello?
I haven't gone by my official title yet. They didn't call him anything right away, which I really like. The movie we're reviewing today is Batman. The Batman.
Well, I mean, I've always liked the impression that Batman is just a colloquial name. You know, it's just what people say. There's no department of issuing names to caped freaks.
It's a bit more realistic that way too, because only a D-bag gives himself a name right away.
Yeah.
Because you set up too much expectation for yourself when you give yourself a title.
It's the classic name before the band situation.
Yeah. I got my Batman bucket.
So that you can throw up when you're
when I
over full of consumerism.
You've seen how much I eat in the movie theater. The girl kind of forced it.
They fill that with nutrient slurry for you?
When I thought about it, so what happened was the girl kind of just put this on the counter, and all of a sudden I was buying it, and I didn't really want to, and then I was like, okay, and as for a bit, I put it on my girlfriend's head, and then the girl came back with a bag of popcorn and said she couldn't use this anymore because it was on my girlfriend's head. And it kind of makes sense, though, because this thing's, somewhat nice, so, I don't know if you'd want to fill it full of butter and everything.
I mean, yeah, it's never going to be the same.
But listen to this. Can you imagine putting that on the theater floor every time you're done eating it or want to get it out of your way? That would have been a nightmare. I'm kind of glad I didn't use it.
Yeah, they're really setting people up for failure with that.
But, yeah, I'll use it as a vomit catcher or a
spittoon.
A spittoon, trash bin.
You gonna get on the dip?
It has a good residual sound to it, so spittoon would actually...
Yeah, I also enjoyed this movie. It's, one of the best Batman movies that has been made. Although it's not, in my opinion, without its flaws.
No, I don't know if it's my favorite Batman movie, but it's definitely a really good Batman movie. I really, really liked this movie.
It was a good watch.
There wasn't really... I can't think of anything that I really had too much of a problem with. Maybe a couple little things here and there, but other than that, this was a solid flick. Even just outside of itself being a Batman movie, it was really good. It was just a good... If you're into crime drama, crime detective movies,
yeah,
this is a good one of those.
That was the thing that allowed me to engage with it. I don't give a damn about your caped psychopaths.
Yeah, I mean, and they make that easier by not giving him a name.
Yeah, but they also make it easier by making it like a real kind of movie, not a series of video game levels.
Yeah, it's
Batman is the superhero that lends himself the most to that. I think that's why he gets the most art house love. He gets real creative types to engage with his material and not brand stewards.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to take Batman in that direction if you let people do that to him, aka video games about him, aka things like Batman vs. Superman. This feels like a Batman movie that's trying to stray away from all that, trying to just be its separate thing. Outside of the Justice League movies and all of that, it feels like its own standalone performance.
I really wish they weren't making associated TV
series with it. I know, as soon as I heard about that, I was just is that a thing we're just doing with everything now?
They don't even need to make a goddamn sequel to this.
No, they have to just bleed everything for what it's worth. Given the fact that I like Jeffrey Wright, and if you do or don't know, they're making a television series on HBO Max about Jeffrey Wright, and he's going to be a detective interviewing people in Arkham Asylum. Which is interesting, sure.
That could be
sure, that's interesting, but then they're giving the Penguin his own spin-off series. And then it's okay, well, the Penguin's a pretty relative character in this movie. So now it's becoming a thing where it's like, do I have to watch these in order to understand what's going on? Like, I don't like being put in situations like that. Like, it's the same thing with The Mandalorian and the Book of the Boba Fett, and it's like, things are interweaving amongst each other. I like standalone things.
I don't like it when my movies come with homework.
No, I like the fact that the Joker is so much its own standalone movie that I don't even have to try and do the math about how it's going to end up in a Justice League movie someday.
Well, we can agree on one thing. I'm glad that I don't have to see more of that movie. That's a good contrast, though, is that the Joker is an artfully filmed movie that I felt was meaningless.
Well, the reason...
And this was a movie that at least has, like, movie's at least got a core of something. It's got a idea behind it.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I liked the Joker movie, but I definitely can see what your issues with it are because of, like, so much of that movie feels like it's up its own ass, which is, like, I'm okay with as I'm watching it, even though I probably shouldn't.
It was a showpiece.
But, in comparison, what I'm talking about is the Marvel movies. There's always... You have to constantly think about when you see these movies, if you're trying to understand what it is, what you missed out on. AKA... Did you watch WandaVision? Did you watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Did you watch the last 37 Marvel movies to pick up on some key character that is now getting their own film in some way or another?
Yeah.
And I like it when I don't have to think about that so much. And this feels like I don't have to worry about that as I'm watching it.
No, this is a good film in and of itself. And I like that it does a good job quickly and efficiently establishing where it sits in sort of the concept of a Batman lore. Very quickly, you just, on a document folder, you see that it is year 2 of what they call the Gotham Project. What Bruce Wayne himself is calling the Gotham Project. So
I like
you know that it's like, okay, you're in 2 years deep. Like,
yeah.
He's not working out the kinks anymore. He's into doing vigilante justice. He's established a presence. He's a known entity.
That's why I really like the opening of this movie.
Well,
with the contrast between the two people breaking the law in one way that's pretty minor compared to the other, and they're both equally afraid to go into the dark because of what he's been doing over the last 2 years, and essentially creating an image of himself that's almost bigger than who he is, right? Creating something that's like, people are so afraid of him when maybe they think he can do things that he can't really do. And they're so afraid to go into the dark, he might just pop out of nowhere, right? Which is, like, oh, man.
I mean, it's a good thing they have that, because all the police are doing is just flying the chopper around, shining it on people, doing vandalism and stuff, being like, hey, you, we see you.
Who are spray painting in the rain.
We're up here. You're down there, but we see you.
That's not effective in the first place. So it's like, that drove me nuts as I was watching it. I was like, nobody's out here doing that unless it's raining all the time in Gotham, and you have to just get it in when you can.
Well, I mean, they got contact lenses that send you VHS quality video, so who knows what the technology for spray paint is in this Gotham.
Yeah, that's true. I love the mask that the guy was wearing when he robbed the liquor store. The little turnip head.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always a good idea to set a superhero thing around Halloween, right? It's cute. It's like a little on the nose, but it's cute. I don't mind. I like it.
It had me feeling a little bit like Batman Returns, just because of the whole being set in Christmas, and how there's like a Christmas theme going on, and then this starts off, it's like a little Halloween, and everybody's wearing costumes, and they're all really weird looking costumes. There's that one person walking around, they have like the spikes coming out of their head.
Yeah, they were cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. So yeah, I liked the way it started, I really did, and it just cold cut right into the intro, just no credits or anything, just boom, we're right into it. So
well, you have the opening scene, which really tells you what kind of movie you're watching, where you see somebody, who later find out is our good friend the Riddler, looking through binoculars or a view scope or something, stalking that guy.
Yeah, we're not aware that it's the Riddler yet, but it's clearly somebody across the street from another building watching a family, specifically a child.
And it, very quickly you're like, okay, no, like, this is like, we're treating this like a thriller movie, we're treating this like a tense psychological crime drama.
Yeah.
And it's before giving you any of the Batman stuff, it just puts you right on ease.
Yeah, and it really drives that home with the La Va Marie song, you know, the operatic music that it likes to hit constantly throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Really drive the point across. Let you know what kind of cop movie you're watching. Trying to be something, alright? No, but this is immediately followed by we're inside the house, and it's showing that this is the mayor that we're looking at, and he's watching the TV. We know it's him because he's watching the TV of a debate that he had earlier that day.
Yeah.
With his opposing mayor candidate. What was her name? She had a clever Real. Something Real, like the Real future. That was her slogan.
Oh man, was that it?
Real. I'm pretty sure it was Real because it had a little like accent above the E, right?
Listen. Mayoral candidate is not a character's name I'm committing to memory. I'm sorry.
Well, we have to know it because she comes back quite a bit in this movie.
Yeah, but she never becomes more of a character, so I didn't mind.
Oh, that's true. I'm going with Real.
The mayoral candidate Royale with cheese.
Yeah, we're watching a debate between, oh my god, the mayor. I can't remember his name right now.
The mayor.
The mayor.
Again,
the mayor and his family.
Why would you? Why do I care what the mayor?
We don't really need to know his name other when they're like, oh, so and so died last night. It's on the TV. But other than that, we saw it. We don't freaking need to see that scene.
Mayor Gotham.
Yeah, he's inside his, study. Welcome to my study. And he's watching the debate that happened earlier, and he's talking to somebody on the phone, and he's judging by the conversation that he's having with this person. It's kind of clear that something was supposed to happen and it didn't. And he's frustrated by it, almost as if he has like some inner workings going on between, like why this came on the news. Like he's got in somewhere.
He's a shiesty mayor.
Yeah, he's a shiesty mayor. That's kind of the concept we're getting by listening to this conversation.
Well, that's one thing this movie does incredibly effectively is it lets you know that everybody is shiesty.
Yeah, it really.
No non-shiesty characters in this movie.
We're not turning up the brightness on any of our cameras for any of these characters.
Yeah. soft focus? Nuh-uh, not these people.
Yeah, so,
but yeah, and that's, that's really where this movie finds its strength, right? Is in its characters.
Yeah.
And
you see him, he's pacing back and forth, he doesn't like what he's seeing, he's just, like, flustered by it. And on the TV, we're getting this image of somebody who you would see in a mayoral candidate. They're, like, all happy and, like, trying to clearly be something that they're not. And that's kind of what we're seeing. It's like him seeing himself as, like, the real mayor.
Yeah, mask on, mask off.
Mask on, mask off. So we're getting a contrast of that immediately, which I really like.
Yeah, it's effective.
Yeah.
It shows you that even people who don't wear actual masks, everybody's wearing a mask in this world.
Yes. And he paces back and forth a couple times, and then boom, somebody's standing there behind him. And, we kind of know who it is right away because they released a lot of trailers for this movie before it was coming out because this is one of those movies that got delayed a lot because of the COVID thing and it just got pushed back over and over again, but they did not want to stop putting trailers out for it, that's for damn sure. They didn't want you to forget that it was coming out.
They put so many trailers out, I accidentally watched half of one.
Yeah, I don't know, I like watching trailers. We're different that way. I definitely get the feeling of being surprised completely when you watch it.
Why would I want to see 7 of the most exciting seconds of the movie cut up and laid to a song that's not in the movie?
That's a big problem with trailers. And that was one thing I will give this movie, is those trailers didn't really give too much away.
Still, I don't need it.
Yeah, they kind of did it on purpose. They were trying to set it up like they wanted riddles for you to figure out anyways, blah, 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 blah.
But yeah, this movie does an incredibly effective job, too, at metering how quickly it introduces you to each of its characters.
Yeah.
It gives you a sniff of the main villain, and then it moves on into our Batman introductory scenes. You meet Batman, you see what he's up to, he gets time to breathe. Then
yeah.
You move back to the manor. You meet Andy Serkis's Alfred. Quite a good Alfred.
Mm-hmm. Alfred with a limp, too.
Alfred with a limp,
which was,
but also just kind of a more rugged boy Alfred.
A little bit, yeah.
Ever, had,
and it sets up that well because there is another maid who is in the house helping them as well. And right away when you see that, you're like, whoa, this is something we've never seen before. There's never anybody else in the house in a Batman story other than Alfred and Bruce Wayne. Having that other person there kind of sets up, especially since Alfred's hurt. So it's like, okay, maybe there's somebody there to help him take the load off a little bit, right? And maybe in Alfred having the load taken off a little bit, he's gotten a little bit more surly with Batman, with everything going on, right? Like, look, all I have to do lately is watch you go in and out of that door and come back all beat up every single night. I have somebody doing all my work for me. I don't even have anything to distract me anymore.
He's getting ornery.
Yeah, which I kind of like. And it feels kind of accurate to Andy Serkis's performances in most of his movies.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that I don't like is Batman really mean to Alfred in this movie.
He is.
Did not like.
Well, ornery, I would say. Like, ornery?
Ornery.
Ornery. Yes, he's a little surly with Alfred, which it's... Right away,
Don't like it.
Dre panned over to me and she was like, goth Batman. Or, what did she say? Emo Batman. And I was like, I like a little bit of an emo Batman. I really do.
I don't mind him being a sad boy, but he doesn't have to be mean to Alfred. It's not okay. It's very rude. He did not deserve the guff.
Yeah, Alfred was not being a dick, yes, but he was, you know... Clearly Batman wants to do this on his own at this point. This is the whole setting up Alfred in this universe, right?
Yeah, because he's a whiny piss baby. Alfred's not going to let him do that. Yeah, and I think that this, you know, the quality of introductions extends to the rest of our characters. When you meet who you find out to be Selina Kyle, you see her, you know, in the thick of her element at first. You just see her moving through things, and then as the movie progresses, it pulls back and continues to focus on her outside of the club.
Yeah.
And
which is also kind of a neat way of showing that Batman's like following her around a little bit.
Yeah, and very
getting to know her in a pervy way, which I kind of like too.
And very quickly, you get to the club and you meet Colin Farrell's the Penguin, who is very good. You could have not put one more scene of him in this movie and had it work. If you put one more fucking scene of him in this movie, I swear to God,
there is an element of this.
It would break it.
There is an element of this character that is definitely fucking funny when you're watching it, man. And I definitely feel like they did that on purpose.
Well, I think that the humor is 85% intentional.
Yeah.
And then there's 15% where I'm like, this is just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and the part I would say you would probably agree with me is his accent, right?
Well, he's literally doing Robert De Niro as Al Capone in The Untouchables.
Quite literally. Especially when the scene where they're showing him a graphic image of a picture and he's like, oh, where do you... Oh! Which, at that point, I just had to laugh, man. That was really funny. Like, not to say I didn't enjoy it at all.
No, I mean...
I loved it.
He is making a full, thickly sliced ham sandwich out of this one.
You kind of get this thing where, like, if you look at him, like, from the side, like, there's a couple scenes where you're kind of, like, you can kind of tell it's Colin Farrell when you look at him from here. But if, like, straight on, there's no way you would ever guess that was Colin Farrell. It's crazy.
He is dolled up.
Yeah. So yeah, we're getting a lot of shots of, like, you know, Batman's kind of, he's still doing his night thing. He's not going out at all as Bruce Wayne. Like, we're not getting any contrast of him as Bruce Wayne like we do in other Batman movies, where clearly he's trying to, like, uphold an image of who Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah, at this point
he's not even bothering.
Yeah, there isn't a Bruce Wayne.
There isn't a Bruce Wayne. He's a ghost, big time.
Yeah, and so for the first 2/3 of the movie, basically all you get is Robert Pattinson's Batman, not his Bruce Wayne, and he's a pretty effective Batman. He cuts an imposing posture. His line delivery is solid. Like, it's a good performance. You can't argue with it much.
In one of the first combat scenes when he beats up the clown gang on the train, right? On the Sky Train. What do they call it in New York? Do they call it, like, a monorail? Do they call
the
it
subway?
The subway. We don't get to call it that here.
The ground train.
Yeah, ours is up in the air, so I call it Sky Train.
Well, they got trains up in the air there, but they call them an L.
The L train?
Yeah.
That's what the L train is.
Elevated.
Elevated train. So yeah, there's this gang on the train. He follows them around. They're, you know, beating up on some poor guy, and he introduces himself out of the shadows, and they say, "Who are you supposed to be?"
This is really where you start to fall into this movie's aesthetic, where I don't know if there is 10% of this movie where the shot is not in an extreme grade of focus, where almost nothing is in the center of the depth of field. It is all out of focus in the fore and background. There are literal shots in this movie that are completely out of focus. It kind of kicks ass.
But yeah, it's done in a style where he's clearly like, this is what I want you to pay attention to right now.
Yeah.
Where it's not leaving any room for you to be like, oh, like, is something else going on? It's like, holding your hand, sure, you could call it that, but I think it's just a very stylistic. It is very nice to look at.
Yeah, well, it does a really good job of guiding your eye.
That's a good way to use it,
and
guiding your eye for sure. Because there's things going on outside of the depth of focus that's happening that you can see.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, what it's doing is it uses those tight focus pulls to guide your eye to the subjects, but a lot of the background, like a lot of the horizon of the city, is out of focus in the depth, and it really lends itself to the... It's not even neon. Like, this movie is not neon, but it's very much city lights.
Yes.
And this is also where
it's kind of leaving Gotham City up to your imagination just a little bit. Because it's not giving you direct images of what Gotham looks like as they're standing on top of skyscrapers and shit like that, right? As the camera's facing out. It's like you say, it's out of focus for most of it, and it's good because it's kind of like, well, I can't see like the layout of the city too much, and really I don't need to, right? Like,
but it's still doing a really good job of painting the picture of this Gotham, right?
Yeah.
It's this. I mean, it's one of the wettest Gotham.
I would be okay if they mention that it rains a lot in Gotham.
Why would they need to mention it? You can tell by the fact that it never stops raining.
It's something they never bring up, but they're just like, yeah, oh, it rains here all the goddamn time.
But the wetness does tie into one of the things that I thought the movie did the best, which was its sound design.
Yeah.
Unlike so many modern blockbusters, this sound design, nice and light on the low end, saves the existence of bass for things that would actually create low end. So many of the scenes in this movie are just like boot steps in water.
Yeah.
And instead of, they really don't do much of using just a low rumbling to create tension.
Yeah.
It's all just the sound of rain, the sound of boot steps. It's really spacious and really gorgeous.
A lot of the combat scenes, like the hand-to-hand combat scenes, have a lot more realistic of a thud to them instead of like a high-pitched smacking noise.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more realistic because there are noises that happen when you watch somebody get punched in the face. Like, and then in the first fight scene, when you see it, kind of just adds a little bit more brutalness to it in a very perfect PG-13 way, I thought.
Well, it's the violence in this movie is very visceral in all of its forms.
Without needing, like, a lot of blood or squibs.
No, I mean, you don't, like, the thing is, you don't need to go over the top. You know what it's like to be hurt. Oh, it's fucking unprofessional. No, it's like, you know what it's like to be punched in the ribs, probably. If you haven't been punched in the ribs, you've probably walked into a table at least.
Yeah.
You know how bad of a time that is.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to lay it on too thick.
No.
Somebody getting punched really hard can very easily be an effective dispense violence in a movie, and just, you don't need to gild the lily.
No. And I thought they did that really effectively in this. Because it's a Batman movie, dude. You could just go overboard with it so easily. You could just put explosions and gunfire and just, like, little gadgets going zip, just, like, all the time, right? And for the first 40 minutes of the movie, you don't get a whole lot of that.
Well, yeah, and since the movie is very sparing with its, what you would call, action to begin with, it's really quite good.
I'd hate to compare it to Dune, but, man, this movie's got a lot of vibes. And Dune is a lot of vibes. This movie's got a lot of fucking feels. A lot of the time it's just
everything that has vibes now forever is Dune.
It's Dune. But it's just like you feel like you're in a wet alleyway. You feel like you're waiting for the train in a shitty little overhang that has a shitload of water falling on it. You feel like you're in some dark, abandoned fucking train station that is the Batcave, which I love. I love that it's like an old train station.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a lot of the settings of this movie, Bruce Manor specifically, had a very gothic feel to it. Like how Bruce Manor, the main living room, has all that weird, like, I don't even know what you call it, like the weird architecture in there. It's a lot of pointy things. Gothic times, they love to put pointy things on everything. It's just keep pigeons off shit.
Yeah,
Pigeon would fly in your house, wouldn't land on shit.
Man, what do you call those fucking arches?
They're not buttresses. Oh, man. Oh, man, I'm back. I'm ready. I'm good to go. Just thought I'd, put on a longer shirt. take the Batman one off because, it's kind of cliche. My belly was hanging out, and take my eye makeup off and change my hair and put a different hat on. Oh, what's this? What has 2 thumbs and is finishing this review alone? This guy? Alright, well, due to a scheduling conflict and the fact that we don't know how to operate a camera properly, me and Cody are going to finish this review. When, honestly, I figured me and Kyle covered most of it. We got into a little bit more about the riddles. We got into a bit more about the riddles themselves and, how cool those were and how complicated a lot of them were. I figured out a couple of them, and if I'm figuring out some of those riddles, I mean, come on. But, talked about the ending of the movie and how Kyle wasn't as big of a fan of it as I was. He thought it could be a little bit shorter, and I tended to agree with him a little bit. He thought there was a little bit of, redundancy almost when it came to that ending with the whole walls exploding and having people on top of this Jumbotron shooting down at other victims below. But I felt it was a little relevant to the time, so it was a little bit more scary. And really the breaking of the water was just a way to get everybody into one building at the same time. But it was a good climactic scene. I didn't think it went on too long. I liked how Batman had one use for his Batarang, and that was to cut whatever electrical rope he was hanging from at the time. And clearly his Batsuit can handle being electrocuted quite a bit. And no, man, it was good. I really liked this movie. Basically, I'm just doing a wrap-up because I really feel like me and Kyle covered most of it. We didn't want to get too spoiler-heavy on it. We could have got into... One thing that I actually really enjoyed talking about with him was the car chase in this movie and how Mad Maxy the whole thing felt. This movie had a lot of Mad Max vibes to it. A lot of Mad Max influences between his little, crossbow thing that he had on his arm with the arrows in it and the car and just the fact that Zoe Kravitz is in Mad Max Fury Road. It was great. It goes on for quite a while, and just... his Batmobile in this is just absolutely terrifying because of the whine of the jet engine on it. And I don't know if any of you have heard a jet engine in real life. It's very similar to that if you're anywhere near it. It is just this deafening scream. And hearing that before you hear his engine start up is actually, it's quite fear-inducing. And that's just something this Batman was able to hammer home so well, is just how good he was at scaring you and making you afraid of the dark. And Robert Pattinson was just great. Colin Farrell was great. Paul Dano was great. Zoe Kravitz was great. Alfred was great. Andy Serkis was great. Jeffrey Wright was amazing. There were so many other actors in it. A lot of the side characters were actors from HBO shows. There was a guy from Chernobyl in it. And, Kyle said he didn't like the Batmobile as much. He said it shouldn't have had the jet engine on it, and I said he deserved to be canceled for that. This was great. I had a great time reviewing it. I got, it's not here. My Batman bucket's down there. It's right there. It's my spittoon now. But I'm stoked. See this movie. It's really good.